Hey, everybody, welcome to the Struggling Hunters, where we're working hard on trying to bring you our struggles and our successes to this podcast. I am Eric, and
I'm Joe,
we are the.
Struggling Hunters.
I kind of forgot what I was gonna say at the beginning of that little intro there. It's not even that complicated of an intro, but I was I haven't done it in a couple podcasts, so
Well, you did pretty good.
yeah.
Little
Well,
little bit
thank
of
you.
room, little bit of room of improvement. I'll let this one slide. I expect better next time, but you're okay.
I know we're working on perfection. The great thing is we're still growing and we don't have to be perfect quite yet. One more subscriber and we might be perfect. So
Right.
if you're out there, consider subscribing.
It won't
Uh,
hurt.
yeah, exactly. You might as well give us a like and a follow. Just, I don't know, be all about us.
If you're looking to make someone's day, like if you really want to help someone out, like you're just like, oh man, I wish there was something I could do to make someone's life better. You could subscribe or hit the like button.
Exactly.
You'd
If
help two guys out immensely.
you'd help two guys out and like, yeah, kind of to feed off of what you're saying. If you see somebody struggling,
Yeah,
you're like, you know what?
I
I
want to help
think
them out.
I want to help them out by showing them that these two are struggling worse than this guy ever could.
Yeah,
Share that video, share this podcast over to them. Make them feel better.
yeah. See, your life isn't that bad.
Oh man. I guess tonight's just one of those nights, huh, Joe?
Yeah. We try to be funny, but we're not.
Yeah. Well, sometimes sometimes you just keep punching and one will land, right?
Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah. Well, I guess to get into the podcast, enough joking around. Time to get serious. Time to get real with it. Tonight we're gonna go over this article that Joe has a little bit of information on. Joe, uh, I'll hand it straight over to you and let you run away with it.
Well, I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen it. It's in the Outdoor Life, I think magazine, and kind of been floating around. It's about I think it's titled "The Ohio Hunter Finds Massive 233-inch Deadhead Buck," and the guy's name is Jason Klein, I think is what it is, and that was it was an interesting read, or fascinating, in a way, because this guy, Jason, spent a couple years doing the best that he could to pattern this particular deer. I think, what did he call it?
Herman.
Hermans, yeah, Herman. And so he was, not only him that knew about the buck, but I guess there's other people that knew about this massive deer, and he tried getting it a couple times. I thought I thought it was interesting that he pointed out, how he could have shot it one year particular. I think it was 2019 or 2019. And the backstory of this deer is it lived on this farm that the hunter wouldn't allow people to hunt on, but the guy, this Jason guy, he had permission to hunt on, I think it was 7 acres on one of the property boundaries. And one year he had it in his sights during rifle season, but at this particular area there was no fence to really show a division of the two properties. So he wasn't quite sure if the buck was on the property he had permission to hunt on, or if it was on the side that he didn't have permission to hunt on. So he let it go, which, it's one of those things. It's interesting that he did that, because no one would probably been the wiser, as to if the buck was on property he could hunt or not, but tried doing the right thing and let the deer slip away. And then this last year, he said that he was going after it, trying to decide whether he should shoot it or not, and the season was getting on the later end of it, before closing down, winding down. He hadn't seen this big buck Herman running around, but he kind of had this gut feeling that it may have died, and because he had that feeling, and then he had another opportunity at a decent size this was a whitetail deer, a decent sized whitetail. I think he said it was 166 is what it scored. He ended up taking this other whitetail, and kind of the kicker of the story too is this: Jason had permission to hunt. Take that back, not hunt, but shed hunt this farm where Herman lived, this massive buck. And so after the season was over and into I can't remember the exact month, but he asked the farmer if he could go in and kind of shed hunt. And Jason was saying that he kind of had an idea in his mind where the deer, if it was sick, where it would have went. In this a thicket area. So he went along through the brush, and creek bottom, I think is what he said too. But sure enough, there he was, dead, already picked over, and bones clean, not clean, but yeah. So he's been dead for a while. He was unsure of what really killed him, if it was old age. They figured the buck to be 8 years old, which I don't know if that's, I think that's old for a deer, but I don't know. It wasn't like he was already going through a hard winter, yet. But he did call Fish and Game. I believe they came out and looked at it, and then he talked to the farmer, and the Fish and Game let him keep the antlers. So, I mean, in a way, it's kind of cool that he spent all these, I think he said 4 or 5 years hunting this buck, and it ended up dying, but yet, he's still able to harvest the antlers. But anyways, it's kind of interesting that, so that's the long and short of the story. But, this area where this massive buck was living, and, I guess the article was saying that everybody, it wasn't just Jason that knew about it, but more than a handful of people knew that he was living in there, and they'd all share pictures of the deer, and trying to pattern them and decide where he would be, and kind of sound like help each other out. But, in a way, it's almost like I kind of hope the deer died of natural causes, not, getting shot and then went over here when it went to where it went and just curled up and died. You kind of hope maybe it was wounded some other way, maybe during the rut by another deer, or coyote killed, or who knows, hopefully it wasn't got shot and then just, transpired because of being shot. But anyways, yeah, so I thought that was kind of a cool little episode, or a little read, how fortunate I was for this Jason guy to be able to, harvest. I don't know if you want to use the word harvest, or you use the word harvest, or acquire the antlers, of this big deer.
I'd probably say acquire. I don't know. I feel like harvest means more like for the meat chase. Right. Like the horns are the bonus, but harvest is more of gathering the meat.
Yeah.
So acquiring would probably be the best word.
It kind of made me think as we kind of talked about, your own hunting morals and the code that you as a hunter lives by. And it was interesting that, Jason put in there that he had the opportunity to shoot it Um, I think, like I said, 2019 is what it said. And then he didn't because he didn't know where the property boundary was. I know I said that earlier, but it just, sticks in my mind, you know, that he was strong enough to not shoot.
Yeah, to hold back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I was thinking of that, and I'm like, I'm all about like sticking with the rules and everything, but seeing something that big and you're like, well, 50-50 on that other side.
Yeah.
I'd be playing all the odds myself. It'd be really hard to restrain on that, but to his credit, that's cool that he did. And
The other interesting thing too is like he showed other people have done it too, but showing finding sheds of that buck for 2 or 3 years. And, you know, I've never hunted in a situation to where I've seen the same deer year after year. Yeah. I being that, I hunt in a draw area. And I don't know, I think muleys do return to the same area in the, after their summer range going or winter range going into the summer range. But, whitetail, their home range is just basically like a square mile, and that's where they live their whole life. So a deer is going to kind of stay within the same area a whitetail deer. But, I kind of, after I got done reading it, I was like, it'd be kind of fun just to choose an area. Maybe, I may not get to hunt it every year, but just start going, finding an area and just kind of go to that area and just see if you can start learning the deer or distinguishing the deer in that area to see if you can even, or if I could even see them come back year after year.
yeah, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Yeah, I don't know what the mule deer range is, or if they migrate a little more.
They do. They have a winter range and a summer range. They had, so
Oh
um,
yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I knew that.
and
But
I don't know if I think we talked about it in one of the former episodes, but that was a big thing for me moving here to Utah was from Idaho is yeah Idaho we had whitetail and mule deer, but yeah I focused more on the whitetail side of it all. And every time I shouldn't say every time, but you go for a hike in the woods, and if you're in a highly populated deer area, you'd come home with a shed or two. um
mm-hmm.
and so like I'd spend a lot of time, I shouldn't say a lot of time, but I spent a lot of time hiking up here around Bountiful. And honestly, I know guys. So let me back up. The deer they kind of spend their winters closer into town because of the Salt Lake Valley area, and all that is where the deer used to winter. Like this was their winter range that I live in, and so the deer spend their time a little bit closer into town. And I'd always, um, I'd be up in the mountains, uh, looking for deer, and I'd never tripped across any sheds, and I've only found one. Well, I found two sheds, but one shed I found up on the mountain, and he was a decent. It was an old shed. It was kind of interesting, where I found it. It was on the hillside between this tree and these rocks. But I've only found the one shed. But Idaho, like I said, we'd go out, and so I'd always beat myself up because I didn't think I was in the deer area because I wasn't finding sheds. Yeah, I didn't understand that mule deer had a hibernation route. I like I said, used to hunting whitetail, and we'd always kick up a shed or two if you're out and about because the whitetail lived within like 1 square mile of where they were born or wherever they were pressured into or where they were living. They didn't have a migration route.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. That's what's hard for both of I think both of us too is We grew up in one area, and I mean, there were so many changes because I think you have to go through the draw for all your deer, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and now here in Colorado, I do too. But obviously, in Idaho, it was just over the counter. I want to hunt this area, and thankfully, I mean, luckily, it was that area was all a pretty big area for all around us, so there wasn't any of the like special draw units or anything. That area that we were at was big enough for us to pretty much hunt everywhere we wanted. So it was real easy to get tags, is what I'm getting at. And those tags were actually good for mule deer or whitetail.
Right.
But like you said earlier, everybody usually always hunted for whitetail for whatever reason. And uh but yeah, like you kind of spend all those years trying to learn one species of deer to the best of your knowledge, and then like you move out here and it's everything's so different. So it's you're playing, like, for me, I feel like I played catch up trying to figure out exactly how everything works. And then you have to go through the draw to even get a deer. So it's kind of a whole different process. Not complaining about it, but it's just a whole different process and avenue
Right.
To hunt out here in Colorado / Utah. But I sure do wish that supposedly there's some whitetails in Colorado, but it must be more on the Front Range side, or I'm not 100% sure where they are, but uh, I've always only seen muleys out here. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm trying to have a reflect on the old whitetail days, or where that story was necessarily going. But just learning, I guess, just trying to learn everything. Luckily though, like nowadays, it wasn't really that long ago. I mean, I guess maybe a little over 10 years ago, but nowadays there's so much information out there. It's a little easier to learn information on where to hunt and how to hunt, but some of it is just experience.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what I've been learning, trying to get my elk, especially, like, sometimes just experience. And I've been kind of running with this thought of, like, the last few years we've stayed in the same unit, but we've kind of moved areas, I guess.
Yeah.
And I feel like whenever I'm finally successful on harvesting my elk, I'm gonna one of my plans is that's kind of where I want to start for the next year. You know what I mean? Because I
Yeah.
know I had success in that spot, so start there. And you know,
Yeah.
just kind of a thought that I've been having. But definitely looking for success this coming year, and hopefully I draw for a deer too. I'm just trying to draw for anything I can, pretty much, so just to give me more opportunities to hunt, give me more chances for success.
Right. Yeah. You know, sorry, not to kind of go back on that article. I don't. Just trying to wrap my head around. Like just hunt. I said earlier, hunting one deer or trying to hunt one deer. Like I feel like that's a little different of a mentality that you'd have to be in a way. Like, yeah, you have your mentality side of it as you kind of have your mind made up of what you want and what what you're expecting. Like, yeah, like, if you're not gonna fill your tag on some little 2 point, if there's some how big was that?
33.
233-inch buck. Yeah, like it's and then how Jason, this kid, you know, had the hadn't been seeing the buck on his trail cam, so he decided to take this other, I guess, great buck. But
I wouldn't be mad at a 162. That's for sure.
I guess that kind of what I'm getting at too is kind of the lessons you learn in hunting. If you try hard, if you're an actual, or I shouldn't say actual, but just trying to be a good hunter, as far as ethics go and like self control, like are you on the right side of the law? Are you doing what you can to understand the law? Are you, if no one's watching, are you still following the law? Or like, and then yeah,
Yeah, I would like to ask somebody, you kind of brought up a good point. I'd like to ask somebody that's, obviously better at hunting deer than us. Does that, or actually people out here in Utah and Colorado, if that's a thing, like for mule deer, if they find one on their trail camera and they hunt that one, is it, because most of this is more like Ohio, for example, Michigan,
right.
whitetails, where they kind of have their homes and they spot them on their trail camera, and they at least know that those bucks are in the area. uh I don't know if you can. I'm sure you can. I mean, I don't really want to say you can't, but I'm really curious if you can on mule deer too, if you can kind of put a stock on one particular buck.
Yeah, well, I want to say that like watch some videos and of people doing a stock on one buck, and like they may have a couple chances, but then if the buck's very wise, it seems like it leaves the area or does something that like you don't know where it is. So it's not like it seems like, yeah, I've never talked to anybody, that's really patterned deer that closely in person. I've just seen hunting videos, and they've always talked about like like if they did spook it, they maybe get another chance, but more than often than not, like they lose it for 3 or 4 days,
Yeah.
or and then or someone else ended up shooting it 4 ridges over or something. But it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of fascinating, kind of interesting too. Like I've never, like I said, I've never done that as far as uh scouting a deer that hard to know where it's going to be and what it's going to do in its natural habitat.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. A lot to learn even for the struggling hunters, but that's why we're the struggling hunters. So it kind of all comes back around.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I feel like I don't like to get too down on myself because I mean, it's all so new as far as, you know, hunting up in Idaho my entire life, having family tradition of showing me where things are at, friends and their family too, growing up with all those, with the outdoors, and being so familiar with those areas, being familiar with the way to hunt up there, and then coming out here and everything's so new, have to find your own spot to hunt. I mean, there's really no excuse with e-scouting, and I mean there's so many tools, uh but I don't know. I just don't like getting too hard on myself because it is a lot of just trying to figure new stuff out.
Yeah.
Um and obviously I'm still trying to figure it out. but just got to get some success under the belt. So have a little bit of fun with it.
True. True.
Uh, uh, so I don't know. Are you kind of wanting to round it off?
Yeah, like I was just sitting there thinking, I think I made all the points that I kind of wanted to make. I don't know, what else I'd kind of want to know rabbit holes to really go down other than, yeah, no, I can't think of anything else.
10-4. I do want to say, like last week, I listened to it back. Didn't sound quite as bad as I had it in my head, but I do apologize for having a head cold. It wasn't COVID or nothing. It was just a simple head cold. But God, I just was not like. I mean, it just was taking over. I was trying to hold tough through the podcast, and this week, kind of like on the free side, or kind of rounding off, talking about current events. I had so much more to say about the Super Bowl and the fights of last week. I feel like it's all kind of done, but I felt so bad because I had some stuff planned, but then my head cold was getting the best of me, and I was like, we just got to get off here. So I I do apologize for that. And it is what it is, but we still, got the podcast out, and that's really what's important to us, just making sure that we get them out every week and doing our best and forgetting the rest. But um, with that, guys, everybody that listens and supports us, I mean, we say it every week, but we can't say it enough. We really appreciate it. You guys really keep us going. And before Joe gets us out of here, actually, do you have any finishing thoughts in that realm?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to get out of here with one little hunting joke, and then Joe can get us out of here for the night. But hunting is the least of their worries. Two deer hunters met in the woods. The first one said to the other, "Boy, I am glad to see you. I've been lost for hours." The second deer hunter said, "That's nothing. I've been lost for a week."
Oh, that's us, and we're not even lost.
Yeah. Yeah, that's us, and we have Onyx.
Right. Oh.
Anyway, I just thought that was kind of funny. I just thought we'd round it off with a little joke, little hunting joke. And Joe, unless you got something else, I'll go ahead and get us out of here.
Thanks again, guys, for listening to us. Hopefully, that got you thinking on something. Something you want to do, something you want to read about, something you want to pursue. Again, give us a like, subscribe, tell a friend, leave a comment. We appreciate it. And thanks again for listening to the Struggling Hunters. Have a good one, guys.
See you next week.